I'm going live with Oliver Ma, who's running for Lieutenant Governor of California. He'll be here any minute. Please feel free to drop any questions. As I am learning, all of these states do things very differently, and California has some unique things to its election, how they handle primaries, and Oliver's campaign has the elements that I have loved about working with many of these candidates, which it's grassroots, it's human, it's community oriented, and yet it has the teeth to actually get things done. So I'm somewhat quoting Amanda Lippman, who said this in a reel yesterday, something like millennial optimism, but with teeth, which is the through line of her program and a lot of the state and local candidates that she works with. Here he is. So yeah, go ahead and click that plus button, Oliver. There we go. Hi, how are you?
Good. Good. How are you?
Good. I'm so thrilled we're doing this.
I know. I've been excited all week.
So, welcome. You're one of the first people I've interviewed who isn't running for the House or the Senate, and this is a really exciting, just shift because there's so many races that are important, and I think it's easy for all of us to get focused on ones at the national level, but the state level, and I mean, certainly the local level too, there's an enormous amount of real work that can get done to help people, which is the ethos of your campaign. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your background and why you decided to run for a big office.
Yes, not as big as Congress, which is very
Still a
important
big deal.
too. But yeah, I mean, California can do so much to lead. So
Yeah.
I'll tell you a little bit about my story. My family and I moved to the US when I was 7, and growing up, my family didn't speak English, and so often I was the one advocating for them, making phone calls, filling out forms, and to keep on fighting for them, I went to law school and I went to the ACLU to work as a civil rights lawyer. And in many ways, that was my dream job. I got to work on so many of the issues that my family faced growing up. But last year, when Trump took office, a lot of things changed, as you could probably guess.
Yeah.
The very first immigration raid in the entire country was in Kern County, where I was working. And they came through and they rounded up hundreds of farm workers. And that was devastating on the community. And so we file our lawsuit against the Trump administration and we actually win. So in April last year, we won an injunction where a federal judge ordered the Trump administration to stop with these illegal immigration raids. And that order protects about 10 million people in California. But what was very noticeable to me was the Trump administration didn't care. For them, an order from a federal judge was just like a sheet of paper. And they kept the raids going. And it really showed me that for this president, a order from a judge was just like a sheet of paper. And a lot of the guardrails of our democracy are no longer there. And
And they
so,
were not there quickly, and they've just
yes,
gotten worse
yes.
at an astronomical rate. What made you choose this race?
Yeah. So there's three things I really want to bring change towards. I want to protect immigrant families. I want to make housing more affordable. And I want to divest our universities from genocide and apartheid in Palestine and invest instead in kids here in California. And the lieutenant governor has a special role to play in each of those three fights. So for us, the lieutenant governor is president of the state senate, where I would be able to co-sponsor legislation. And that's where I want to push for a bunch of laws protecting immigrant families, things like shutting down for-profit ICE prisons, holding ICE agents accountable for shooting legal observers, stuff like that. Our lieutenant governor also chairs the state commission on economic development. And so it would be my job to advise the governor, the legislature on what California's economy needs to grow. And so I did a few years of eviction defense and organizing for housing justice. I think the big thing holding our state back is the cost of housing. And so that's where I want to fight for that. And then the lieutenant governor is on our University of California and Cal State University and Community College Board of Regents. And so I would first be able to make sure our public universities are tuition free, but also I would be able to vote to divest our universities from genocide and apartheid.
That's powerful. That's incredibly powerful. One of the things that I loved, first of all, so enjoyed getting to know Mario from your campaign.
All right, that's
Um,
so cool.
but one of the things that I loved in what he sent me was that you want to shift the position from a ribbon cutting role to a people's advocate role. And I love that. Feel free to elaborate on that if you want.
Yeah, I've always fought for families. I've always been on the front lines, whether it be as a civil rights lawyer or community organizer. And for me, politics cannot be the end goal for anyone. It has to be a way to build power. And
Yeah.
so for me, right, all of these things I talked about, protecting families, making housing more affordable, divestment, they are things that the lieutenant governor has a hand on, but the lieutenant governor cannot do alone. We have a system of checks and balances, and we should have a system of checks and balances. But what that also makes me really conscious of is to bring change on these things. It has to be more than just elevating myself. It has to be more than just getting me into office. It has to be about building the next generation, doing the hard work of training leaders, building grassroots power. That's what it's going to take to change some of these really entrenched interests that are hurting Californians and hurting working people around the country. And so the lieutenant governor often is just a ribbon cutting job in the state of California's history. But for me, it is one where I want to advocate and use the position, the knowledge and the power of the position to build a lot of power.
I don't know how connected you are to all these congressional races that are happening all over the country with grassroots progressive candidates. I know you're connected to some of them, at least in your own state, but
Yes.
you just said it's about an us and a we, and it's about more than just, any one person, which one of the things I've observed in this group that I clustered them together in a signal chat. We got a bunch of creators and influencers and different people in there, but there's such an ethos of collaboration. And I share that all the time. Like, speak to what you've observed, or perhaps what gives you hope about the grassroots candidates as a movement nationally, and what that might mean for actually being able to create change.
Yeah. All of these things that I am fighting for, divestment, right? That is something that people have been bravely fighting for decades,
Mm-hmm.
all the way back in South Africa and probably before that. And there are very organized student groups, faculty groups that are fighting for divestment,
Mm-hmm.
protecting immigrants, right? I'm just a small part of a very large, very active, very energized machine. And then housing justice, right? I cut my teeth as a housing organizer in Boston, organizing tenant unions and rent strikes and defending tenant leaders. And again, that was part of a movement that folks have been doing for decades, if not centuries. And so for me, yeah, it absolutely has to be connected to all of these movements, to other progressive candidates who are trying to do the same thing. A big goal of mine is, I think right now when progressives run for office and they decide not to take money from corporations, they start two steps behind. And but still it's worth it. And me and a lot of other people have made that choice because that's the right thing to do. But what I think we really need is a power structure that can propel progressives so that if you decide to be a progressive candidate for any office and you don't take corporate money, you start two steps ahead. I think Zoran and the organizing in New York City has made it so that if you are that candidate in New York City, you start two steps ahead. I mean, his campaign trained 100,000 volunteers, and now those 100,000 people are helping other people, other progressives. That's what we need to do in California. I'm so excited to be the first candidate that the California DSA has ever endorsed for statewide office. And part of what makes me so excited is because DSA is absolutely on the front lines here in California,
Mm-hmm.
defending immigrants, organizing for housing justice, and all of these things. And so to be able to work for them, and then at the end of the campaign, to funnel all of our volunteers into DSA, that is already going to be a victory. Like I already know that the campaign is going to end with that victory, which gives us so much energy. We've trained now more than 3,000 volunteers as a part of the campaign, and those are folks that after the campaign, we're going to say, we don't have the capacity, we don't have the resources to keep training you guys, but here are all the other great movements who have been fighting for the same thing for so long that you can get involved in.
Ugh, I love that. I love that so much. And And if it was just you and me right now, I could deep dive on that part for like an hour. But since people
Yeah.
are watching us, I want to know about your campaign. We'll talk about that. Tell me about housing specifically, because it's such a complex issue. And I actually haven't gotten into housing on any of these yet. I was supposed to the other day with Lauren
Oh.
Collin, who's running in the LA area. And we ended up on this beautiful alternative path or conversation that neither of us expected about high demand religion and the psychology of like cult like thinking and how that finally seeming to, I mean, it's breaking down. It's slower than either of us would like. We ended up on this whole other tangent that was pretty cool, but we did not talk about housing in California. But I would love to hear why is it so stuck? I mean, I know, but I would love for you to explain it to viewers. And what are some practical, tactical steps to improve and increase housing in California?
Yeah. Yeah, I can't talk much about cults. That is not my area of expertise. But my finance director did tell me recently that the Jones Day cult was originally a really progressive housing movement, and they saved like several affordable housing projects and seniors from evictions, and then they did their whole cult thing. So maybe there's some relations there. But for
I live
housing,
in the
right?
Bible Belt, so we were specifically referring to the MAGA evangelical type of
Uh,
cult.
that cult.
That cult. The
A
cult.
little different from what we have
The
in
cult.
California.
Anyway, I was
Yeah.
joking with someone. I have a group chat with three other content creators, and they were like, "Yeah, I don't hear people talk about it that much." And I was like, "God, I'm in line at like to get a cup of coffee, and I'm hearing people discuss like rapture theology in the background. It's like, ugh." But anyway, let's bring it back to housing. Tell me more.
Yeah. So we need to build more housing. Absolutely. That's something everybody agrees on. I think not everybody can get it done because a lot of the people saying we need to build more housing are also taking checks from people and groups that benefit from restricting the number of housing so they can keep on charging people a lot for rent. So everyone says it, but obviously that has not been done. And so what I want to push for is for the state to mandate the building of 1 million new affordable homes and ideally for the state to step in and actually build those homes. I grew up in public housing. I grew up on the 23rd story of this apartment building in the middle of Beijing that my grandma got for free after working as a public school teacher. Um, and she was able to get that from a job that here, you would never be able to afford a home in the middle of a major city like that. She would never be able to. But in China at that time, that was possible. And she got a really modern, brand new apartment building in the middle of the city. And that was possible because the government came in and invested in that infrastructure. And here we have that too. It's not that radical, right? When we turn on the water, sometimes it's not the case, but we typically expect the water to be there, to be clean, and to be relatively affordable. Same thing with the power. And these things exist because we have invested in those infrastructure, right? We've invested in our reservoirs, we've invested in our power grid. And so those things exist. I think the things people really need to survive should not only be provided because a company can profit from that. If that's the case, we would not have clean drinking water that is affordable. If that's the case, we would not have reliable energy that is affordable. And that is the case in the housing system. And that's why we don't have reliable, new, affordable housing. So that's one thing I think we really need to do. We need to protect tenants better. That's something I did as a housing attorney, and so that's something I think the state can really step up to do. And one thing that nobody talks about when it comes to housing, at least not on the corporate Democrat side, some Republicans do talk about it, is confronting the corporate landlords who own way too many homes in the state and across the country. Last quarter, a third of all homes sold in the entire country was bought by investor landlords. These are not regular families that are trying to live in those homes. These are billion-dollar private equity investment companies who have bought hundreds of thousands of homes. And they pay more than what regular people can pay because they can afford to. And then they charge whatever they want on rent. Now, a young person, a working family is never going to compete against a private equity company for a home. We're always going to get beaten out. And then that's why they have a monopoly and they can charge whatever they want on rent. So I think housing should be for people to live in, not for companies to invest in. And so for me, the state needs to ban these corporate landlords from owning single family homes. And that's something that we want to push for.
Yeah, that's scary in a lot of ways, right? Because it seems it makes that person feel powerless in a situation where it's just a basic thing that we need, right? Our
Mhm.
homes. And in the sheet that Mario put together for me, I think it said that the average rent is $2,800 a month in
Yeah,
California. Does that sound
yeah,
about right? Yeah,
yeah,
that's that's a lot. Um,
yeah.
have you read Abundance by Ezra Klein and Derek Thompson?
No, I haven't.
The gist of it is supply side like progressivism, which is like, you know, on the progressive side, we tend to get historically into scarcity. Like how do we cut back to save the environment, da da da. But like their proposal is how do we wildly step forward with abundance and create renewables and become the leader in renewables, and how do we create more housing? And one of the things that they do well, I think, is criticize our party in terms of the rigor of um red tape involved in doing that kind of thing. And they
Hmm.
point to very specific examples where housing projects or public transportation projects have gotten funded but have not been able to be executed because of all the
Hmm.
steps and all of the rules and having to hire people from different places, but the systems for those types of companies are slow. What do you have to say about the red tape and the gritty, probably boring but important details that would need to change in order for the housing plan to come to fruition?
Yeah, I think we need to deregulate. So I agree there.
Yeah.
I think that is a good example of why the Democratic Party is failing, because this party's entire brand is government is going to solve your problems. But the election process and the party is so corrupt that it's really a game of company donates $1 million to politician, politician gives $5 million in taxpayer money back to the company. That's how our system works. And so, here in California, we were supposed to build a high speed rail connecting NorCal and
Yes.
SoCal. It was
Yes.
approved. It was approved about 2 decades ago and was supposed to be finished 2 years ago and cost about $10 billion, I think. If that were in Asia, if that were in Europe, that high speed rail would have been done in a year, 2 years max. But here, $10 billion, 2 decades to build. It is now 2026. All of the money has been spent. Not, the $10 billion gone. It's completely gone. They've spent more than that, and not a single section of the high speed rail has been built, has been complete. So that is why the Democratic Party lose, because your entire promise is government's going to solve problems, but you are so corrupt that government cannot solve anybody's problems, right? I'll meet people who are Trump supporters, and they'll say, like, I support feeding the hungry, I support homing the houseless, I support healing the sick, but I don't trust government to do it. And I agree with them. I also don't trust our government to do it because our political system is so incredibly corrupt. And so what I think we really need to do is, one, get the corruption out of politics. That's why my campaign and a lot of people running are not taking any corporate money in our campaigns. And number two, once we get into office, we cut a lot of these regulations that are written to enrich the special interests that donate into our political system.
Brilliant. I love it. Um, I don't know how much this shows to you or your staff being inside a campaign, because I feel like once you're inside your own campaign, you're probably to some degree tunnel vision because you need to be, right, for what you
Yeah.
are trying to accomplish. But the public's understanding of campaign financing is drastically increasing, I think. Is that something that you're finding when you talk to constituents? Because at least from my end, and I know that I'm in this world on a daily basis, but even when I
Mhm.
talk to like other parents or friends who aren't, the awareness of things like APAC or corporate funding, or how that people are starting to wake up and look for candidates who are unbought. I think. Are
Yes.
you noticing that when you talk to constituents?
Yes, I think, I always like to, I always assume I'm overestimating how much voters care about politics and politicians.
Hmm.
But I think one thing that everyone feels is that our political system is not right. There is an incredible amount of corruption on the part of both parties. I mean, the Epstein files just back all of that up. So that is something, yeah, that I think everyone can not only know, but can feel.
I love that. These interviews always go so quickly, and 30 minutes is so fast. I'd love to know some things about you that have nothing to do with politics or California.
Oh man. You're gonna have to start me off with some questions. One thing about me,
Okay.
there are no question that is too spicy or too controversial, so you can ask away.
Um, favorite, I mean, are there? So I'm going to ask this actually in the frame of the overall conversation. Are there TV shows or movies or characters that are representative of what we're going through right now and inspire you?
In TV shows, I'm a huge fan of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Hmm.
Um, I think it what they go through in that world is very similar to what we're going through here with the rise of fascism, but a small group of young people are fighting back, and that really feels like our campaign. The majority of the folks on my campaign are in their 20s, and we have some folks who are older with a lot more experience, who are kind of the moms and dads of the campaign team. But it really is a group of young people with a lot of fresh energy and fresh ideas who are going up against this very entrenched, established system. And we all like Avatar, so that's a big inspiration.
I love that. I don't know if you've seen Wicked, but that's one that I keep coming back to right now as like a
Yeah,
very parallel thing. Very
yeah.
cool. Um, Anything else? I mean, there's a lot of topics that I know are important to your campaign. Mar just did such a great job sending me information. What else would you like people to know about your values? What makes you unique? Your policies?
Um,
Healthcare. Oh, I know what I wanted to ask you. Okay.
yeah.
Did you have a thought? Because I can go with this.
No, no, go ahead.
One of the things he wrote was, can you break down the math of why a single payer system is actually more fiscally responsible?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I'll give a personal story. And this one's a pretty, I don't think I've shared it publicly before, so this will be fun. So
Awesome.
I have a tooth that is fake. Can you tell which one?
Yes, I can, but I'm a dentist. Did you know
Oh,
that, by
you're
the
a
way?
dentist? I didn't know that.
But I can tell. Tooth
Yeah.
number 9, yes.
Is that number nine?
Yes, it is.
Yes, that one is fake.
I've
Okay.
transitioned
People,
into this over the last 6 months, but yes, dentistry is my
wow.
original career.
Oh, wow. That's great. People typically say they can't tell, but maybe they're being nice. So
If anyone's going to be able to tell, it's someone who.
yeah, yeah. So
Go
that
ahead.
tooth is fake,
Yeah,
and the reason it's fake is because of our healthcare system. I hurt the tooth playing water polo in college, and at first it was just a little swollen. So I went to the dentist and I was like, "Hey, I hurt my tooth," and they were like, "Oh, it's infected, and you're going to need to like do a root canal or whatever, and it's going to be like hundreds of dollars."
probably
I was like,
thousands.
yeah. And I was like, no way. I'm just going to take some ibuprofen, let my body fight off an infection by itself.
Right.
Um, and so I do that. And for the next few years, every few months, it would get swollen. And, sometimes I would go to the dentist and they would be like, oh, well, now there's bone loss around your tooth. That's really bad. You should really get it fixed. But every time it keeps getting more expensive. And I'd be like, I'll just take more ibuprofen and it'll stop hurting. If it's not hurting, it's not a problem. And eventually the tooth fell out because all the bone around the tooth had been
Wow.
destroyed. So
And
I
that's
lost the tooth.
psychologically hard too. Like I've had patients come in with very similar situations, and especially when front teeth start to get wobbly like that, it's
Yeah.
upsetting. And you're
Yeah.
young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My party trick is I would pull out my fake tooth sometimes.
Nice.
but yeah, so eventually like I had to get an implant, and now I have a Maryland bridge, and the whole process cost thousands of dollars once I went through with it. If we had universal healthcare, I would have gotten it taken care of right there and then. It would have saved me thousands of dollars. It would have saved the dentist system, hundreds of hours of dental care. But because we don't have a system that prioritizes preventative care and only gives care when people are really sick, that damages our public health and it ends up costing our economy more money. Um, when I was born, the life expectancy in China, where my parents are from, was 8 years shorter than the life expectancy here. And if you told them that today, just 3 decades later, things would be different, they wouldn't believe you. But today, the life expectancy in China is longer than the life expectancy in the United States, which is shocking because in many ways, China is still so behind the US. And we spend more money than any other economy on healthcare, but we get worse results. And the reason is because our healthcare system is built to exploit people and to get people sick and keep on taking money from them instead of actually making our society more healthy.
It's sickening. And the levels of corruption in that, I feel like I've, as much active learning as I've done, I've still only scratched the surface. It's kind of like the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. And to the dental insurance part, at least here in the state of Virginia, so health insurance is usually where once you meet your deductible, you get coverage on anything that goes above that. Dental insurance is the opposite. You
Mm,
have a deductible that like it'll cover up to that amount and then you're on your own.
yeah.
I have never seen a dental plan cover more than $2,000 of treatment in a year. And that's like 4 fillings. That's like a crown. It's not much. So we don't have a system for comprehensive dental care that is accessible, period.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We don't. And then a secondary problem that like I think of because I went through it is for the doctors, for the physicians, student loans are insane. I was very
Mm-hmm.
fortunate. I was able to go to college with a scholarship, and then I was able to go to dental school for less and did not graduate. But I had colleagues or classmates graduate with $500,000 of student loans from dental
Oh
school
my
in
God.
2013. So
So it's only gotten
now
worse.
I'm thinking it's 700, 800. You know what I mean? Like, it was the last year of dental school was $100,000 for the year, I think, or maybe a little bit over that with living expenses. And it compounds, like, and you do a residency afterwards. So when you do, and we didn't really have education on this, not that it would have mattered because once you're in, there's not much you can do about it. When you're in residency, it's just sitting there compounding.
Mm-hmm.
And for medical doctors, that's 4 years, 6 years. Um, but yeah, one of the things I've loved, and I can't wait to add you to our candidate group, even though it's mostly congressional candidates, I'd love to have you in it, is like when they get into policy, they like geek out on policy in like the best way, and they also like low key
Mm-hmm.
give each other shit about stuff. Like it's like collaborative and like fun.
Oh, I
Like
love that.
it's great. It's human, and this is what excites me so much because this group of people knows what to do. I'm relentlessly motivated to get a block of these progressive, unbought candidates elected to Congress at the same time.
Yeah. I have a
Um,
few that I can recommend you in California that are really great.
Awesome. I bet I already
Yeah.
know them.
Oh yeah, probably.
I probably already know them.
Yeah.
Um, Hunter and I are besties. It doesn't.
Oh, Hunter's so great. I love Hunter.
And I
Yeah.
met Sparky. I've talked to
Oh, you
Kristen
do
a
know them.
bunch. I've
Okay.
met Shoykat.
Yeah.
I was at the Working Families Party I was at the conference 2 weeks ago, but I was at the Working
Oh,
Families Party
nice.
that Friday night. I'm sure you were there too, and we just didn't see each other.
I was not there.
You were
No.
not there. Okay.
Mm-mm,
Yeah.
mm-mm.
But we probably were like in the same rooms and didn't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, that's so
But yeah,
funny.
Audra, Jenny, and I are going to do a call next week, and I'm really looking forward to connecting with her.
Dang,
But
you do know. You know everybody.
this thing started for me. So I was a dentist. I was leaving dentistry to do business coaching for entrepreneurs. I was trying to get out of dentistry for a long time, and I had marketing and sales and coaching background. I randomly had the opportunity to coach Miss Universe contestants on their
Huh?
interviews in like 2018, and it was this
What?
random thing that came to me through a patient, and I loved it. And then after I had my kids and like they were a little bit older, I got back into it and was doing business coaching for entrepreneurs, and that's what this account initially was. And back in
Mm,
June I connected to somebody, Jake Rakove, who is actually a California candidate. He's no longer running. He was just running in the 32nd district at the time. I connected to him through a mutual friend and did my first candidate Instagram live, and it was the single most hopeful moment I had had in a long time. And
oh,
then
wow.
you guys, grassroots progressive candidates, mostly for the House and the Senate, were just populating on my feed. Like
Mhm.
that, my suggestions, even though I was not a political content creator, were grassroots progressive candidates for the House and the Senate. And after the Charlie Kirk assassination, I just kind of let go of running group programs for entrepreneurs and sort of did the same thing for candidates, but for free. And here we are now, and it's become a big group and a network, and Flair folks are in there, and I talk to citizen impeachment pretty often, and 50501 is in there, and a bunch of
Nice.
podcasters are in there. So the goal is to be able to move in step and have leverage when we can and when we need it,
Yeah.
and also
Yeah.
get a group of people elected.
Sometimes you find the movement, but for the best people, the movement finds you. And it sounds like the movement found you.
And then I can still talk about dentistry sometimes on an Instagram live.
Hey,
But
it touches so many parts of our lives. I'm
it
glad that
does.
that came up.
I love that it came up, and I love that you probably didn't know that about me.
Nope.
Tell us, where can we find you and how can we support you? And I was supposed to copy and paste your donation link to put in the comments, and I forgot, so I'll put it in the caption. But where can we
Thank
find
you.
you and how can we support you?
Thank you. We need volunteers. We have a very unique union inspired volunteer system where we ask people to represent us in their communities. We have these pledge cards
Hmm.
that people can just print out at home, and they'll go and distribute it to the communities they have roots in,
Uh-huh.
and get people to know about our campaign and pledge to vote for us. Of course, we also would welcome financial contributions. Those are useful because we're running our campaign very differently. Your typical campaign will spend 80% of its money on advertising and then a bunch of the rest on paying canvassers to go knock on doors. And those are two things that we don't anticipate ever paying for because,
Right.
on
So you have
social media,
volunteers.
right, on social media, when you speak truthfully without taking money from corporations, I think it lets you speak with a lot of power. And so that helps
Yeah.
us expand our reach. And then for volunteers, yeah, we have thousands of volunteers. And so we're not going to have to pay for canvassers. And so the money that we do get, that we do raise, all of it grassroots, we invest right back into the community. We are training these thousands of volunteers to tell stories, to organize their communities, to build grassroots power. And if that sounds like something that folks want to get behind and invest in, then they can make a contribution. They can do both at our website at oliverma2026.com.
Awesome. I'll get this posted. I'll collab your account. It was such an honor getting to talk to you today.
Ah, it was so fun. Let's keep in touch and keep making more trouble together.
Good trouble. Lots of it.
Yes.
All right.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.